Um, I've been doing a study of fashion modeling, and I've been looking at fashion models not just in terms of being icons of femininity or being representations of beauty or glamorousness. I've really been very interested in how modeling work is a form of embodying work, where the what models do and looking at how they do their work and what it involves teaches us a lot about being in the world today, especially being in this mediatized, technology-intensive society that currently we are existing in. What I've been thinking about is that a model's work can be thought of as glamour labor in the obvious sense, where they, a lot of the job of modeling is looking right, dressing right, being thin enough or being beautiful enough, and knowing how to wear makeup or whatever it is. That's surface kind of self-preparation. But there's another level to having to make this kind of image. The models that I talk to say it's a 24/7 job, meaning they do it all the time. You can't, they call it the life. You can't step out of this world. It's an all-encompassing, all-or-nothing kind of approach to work, which it interestingly parallels some of the strains in scholarly work that has been talking about having to be an enterprising self, like Foucault has talked about this, or having to be one of the like this meme that's come out of the last decade is thinking about being the CEO of me, and this all the time having to produce oneself has become sort of a norm in contemporary workplaces that I found that models actually in their work make look fun, or make it look like something we should all want to do. But then to take that a step further, when you think about all of the work that the model's doing to produce this image, it becomes the line between where the physical body of the model ends and where the image begins starts to blur, especially when we think through how the work has changed since the 1980s when cable and the internet sped up the level of image distribution and images bombarding us. Glamour labor is more than just going to the gym or putting on the right outfit. It's also all the work that models do to be in the know about fashion or to know how to manipulate brands to send the right kind of message. And they do that in their work in producing images for brands. And also they have to do that in their work of getting work, because part of the work of modeling is walking a runway or being on a photo shoot, but there's a whole other piece of the work that involves producing that image of that advertisement for yourself when you're walking down the street or when you walk into the agency or when you go to an agency party. So that being in the know about how branding works and manipulating it to your advantage is a kind of glamour labor, because it's actually the work involved in knowing how to be glamorous, and then the models make that look fun, and we're attracted to being in the world in a similar way. And so then we learn about from them how to engage with brands and kind of brand ourselves and put ourselves out there in the world in an attractive way. And we're playing into a need, an overarching need of capitalism to get us to engage with our technology more and more and more. So if you're feeling like you have to tweet and you have to have your blog and you have to keep your Facebook up to date and you have to produce this shiny, happy person all the time, in that sense, you're engaging in a smaller, not quite so intense, but another version of this kind of glamour labor that models are doing full on all the time in their job. That models, in a sense, some of their work, and it's not an intention of their work, but it's an after effect of the work that they do to produce images for brands or produce fashionable images, is that they produce images that attract us to becoming entrained to the rhythms of fashion, so that we learn that we need to pay attention and that we need to tune in. We have to be hooked up, and we have to become involved to be glamorous in our own way, so that, and that need feeds into the needs of productivity in the capitalist system, where if nobody paid attention, then some of the economy wouldn't run. So there's that piece. But then there's also an interesting piece in terms of embodiment. Models also, if we look at, all models are skinny, right? They're skinny and they're tall. But actually, I went and looked at the annuals for models over from the 1930s until now to see if they really have been always skinny. What have their measurements been? And I found that their measurements, because they have these model cards that show what their height, waist, and waist, hips, and bust size are, and their height and their weight. And so I graphed from the 30s until now the fluctuations in height and measurements, and found that, in fact, there was a wider variety of sizes that were acceptable in the modeling industry in the past than there have been recently, but that now we're moving toward a phase where we've kind of reached the limit of how thin and how tall models can be. It's become the graph is very variable, and then it kind of narrows into a very, very tiny range of height. They're all certain height, certain waist size, hip size, bust size, weight, and it has become thinner, but I see trends toward moving into a system now where we're going to be fluctuating between very pared down and very built up, and very pared down and very built up. And some scholars would argue that this modulation of the body, this changeability of the body, is actually being harnessed as a productive resource, that encouraging people to feel that they have to get cosmetic surgery, or they have to build their bodies up, or they have to pare their bodies down, or they have to keep going through this cycle, is a resource for changeability in the body that can be made profitable, so that the cosmetics industry makes more, the diet industry makes more, the cosmetic surgery industry makes more. Medicalization of illness is now turning into a medicalization of wellness, but it's all about your body is something that is a project that needs to be worked on and constantly ramped up or toned down or medicated or freed from medication, and that modulation of the body in that way is something that is a fact of life for a model, that having to be changeable and responsive to the needs of whatever the whims of the fashion world are is something that models do as par for the course in their job, and they make it look like we should all want to do that. That looks like great fun. I want to get involved in that, kind of changing myself all the time. And then it becomes a sort of glamour labor as a full-time job on top of our regular jobs. So it's this system which has been developing, and I'm arguing that fashion models have played a part in helping build that system. It's getting at some of these questions of agency, in terms of how do we exercise agency as humans in a highly technicized, digitized, where does the body end, where does the technology begin world that we live in today? I mean, we have prosthetic devices that keep our hearts beating, and we have inserts you can make into your, well, we don't have inserts, but I always think of drugs as technologies you can put in your brain to run it differently, or put into your body to run it differently, and we have gene therapy, and we have all of these new technologies that have really undermined assumptions about what it is, where is the epidermally bounded container of the human, to use Irving Goffman's phrase. I love that phrase, epidermally bounded container. There's a real debate out there about, there's one side that says, rah, rah, new technology, new media, let's go for it, let's go for the cloning, let's get prosthetic arms, let's extend our power through technology. It'll be great. And there are other counter arguments that are saying, like, for instance, in the exciting new frontier of the totally democratic new media world that the internet provides, some are arguing that it's not really a digitized freedom that allows the democracy to prevail. It's more like a digital plantation. I'm quoting an article from The Nation recently, this idea that we freely give up our valuable privacy, our valuable time, our valuable energy in pursuit of these fun blogs or Facebook or Twitter, finding things out or being curious about things online. But in doing that, we're giving away things that are of value and making profit that doesn't benefit us. It benefits the corporations that own the material, the digital technologies that we're using to entertain ourselves or connect with others or whatever it is. So there's a real debate there about how is this technology affecting us. And so my work is trying to look at how we're attracted to doing things that we don't think about as insidiously harmful to us in any way. We this culture of exposure that is the norm in the modeling industry that more and more people are embracing really can be damaging in ways that we haven't thought through carefully. I mean, I literally have pages from my diary when I was a kid, and I remember writing, like, I'm supposed to be pretty and quiet, and I was noisy today.